Morning. I'm Adam, and I was diagnosed at 48 years old with stage 4 advanced prostate cancer, which had spread to my lymph nodes and my bones. And I use this medium to document the journey that I'm on in hopes that it might help you or someone you know who might be suffering from cancer. First, I do want to remind everyone that I am not a doctor, so nothing that I say should be construed as medical advice. So it's been about a month since the last update, and today I want to talk about insurance and what a headache and nightmare insurance can be here in this great country of ours, the United States of America. So, and please forgive me, I'm suffering from a cold. Just as a quick in time update, I think the Alvarados are falling apart. All of us have gotten sick in the last 2 weeks or so, and Shelly and I seem to still be fighting ours. So, I might do things like that, like clearing my throat or some sniffles or whatnot. So please beg your pardon for any of that. All right, so insurance. So the last couple of, and I may have mentioned it on the last episode, but I have been fighting through insurance hell up until the first or second week of March. It all started back in December when I got notification that the doctor I had been seeing, the genitourinary oncologist I've been seeing at Houston Methodist, Dr. E, was leaving Houston Methodist and going to the Knight Center in Oregon. At the time, she had said that I could follow her up to Oregon, but it would be a while before she started having clinic hours. So I thought that was fine. She also had said before she left that she'd put in the prescriptions. She had renewed my prescriptions for both Nubeqa and Orgovyx, the two hormone therapy drugs that I'm on. She had renewed those for the next year, so I shouldn't have an issue. It should, and then by time we get to the middle of the year or something like that, she'd be having clinic hours again and whatnot. Anyway, January came and went. I was able to get my refills. Well, I take that back. I got my Orgovyx refill, and then Nubeqa I didn't get a reminder for. So, didn't know what had happened. I called Biologics, who I believe was the specialty pharmacy I was getting it from, around the 19th of January, which is when I usually get a reminder to renew the subscription, not renew, but to put in another order for a refill. Biologics informed me that my insurance provider that I get through Shelly had switched specialty pharmacists. And so now I was being seen by Cost Plus. And I probably have that name wrong, but yeah, Cost Plus was the name of the new pharmacy. So I dutifully called Cost Plus because I was starting to run out of the Nubeqa. No problems with Orgovyx, just Nubeqa. And Cost Plus said, okay, well, we got to jump through these hoops. Yes, we have your insurance and we'll start working with this. I worked with them for about a week, calling them once every other day or something, or maybe they called me asking for a new piece of information, making sure the insurance information was correct. And lo and behold, about a week after doing this, I talked to Cost Plus, and they came to the epiphany that, oh, you know what? We don't offer Nubeqa. So they're going to, at that point, they said, let me transfer you to CVS Specialty Pharmacy. And I keep referencing this paper because this is how many things happened during this whole nightmare of trying to get my Nubeqa prescription refilled. So anyway, again, Anthem, through Edward Jones, switched specialty pharmacists to a specialty pharmacy that did not carry the specialty medication that I was on, in this case, Nubeqa. So I get transferred to CVS Specialty Pharmacy, and they said, hey, we're going to do this. It may take a day or two to go through, but we'll do that. But we also recommend that you call and get set up. So I did that. I called CVS Specialty Pharmacy, got set up with them as far as created a patient profile. And then I waited a day or two and I called to try to get the information as far as where we were at. So first they couldn't find me, and it took about 20 or 30 minutes for that. Then come to find out they spelled my name wrong when they were putting me into the system, although I do spell it phonetically for them. I understand it's not the easiest name, although it is pronounced exactly how it's spelled. But regardless, we got over that hurdle, and then we get to the medication. Well, what happens, and this is where it gets really frustrating. Obviously, it was frustrating before with not getting notified, and I probably was notified, but it just falls through the cracks because when you are a cancer patient or you have some type of chronic illness, you get so many letters in the mail from pharmacies or other medical institutions that they kind of blur. You don't open all of them, although I do try to open all of them, but then, sometimes they're in a different language, whatever it is. So at this point, it gets frustrating because CVS then tells me, after initially making it seem like this was going to be not a problem, that they'd be able to go through the whole process and get this started. And don't forget that at this time, I'm still starting to run lower and lower on my current Nubeqa amount or supply. So it turns out that when the first transfer from Anthem to Cost Plus happened, not a problem. They can just take that prescription that had been renewed for a year and just continue on as though nothing had happened. But if you transfer that prescription one more time to a different pharmacy, because say the pharmacy it was transferred to originally doesn't carry your medication, well, then the prescription becomes invalidated and you need to start jumping through a bunch of other hoops to get that revalidated. Of course, top on that list to be revalidated is that your physician at the hospital that it was issued from, that the prescription was issued from, needs to revalidate it. And of course, in my case, that doctor is no longer at that hospital. And I'm waiting for that doctor to restart clinical hours at her new hospital in order to then start seeing her and have a genitourinary oncologist again. So I'm basically between oncologists and I have no doctor at this point. So at this stage, I contacted Dr. E, who is still in the middle of trying to get settled in at the Knight Foundation. And she, to her credit, she immediately emails me back and CCs her old team over at Houston Methodist about the issue that I'm having and says, hey, these are the nurses that should help you and good luck. So again, she's not there. There's a limited amount that she could do other than just revalidate it herself or offer to do that. But she did mention that she's not having clinic hours yet. So I don't know in the whole litany of the medical world if you have to have clinical hours in order to refresh a prescription, but she wasn't going to do it. So anyway, so I talked with the team there and they say, okay, we're going to go ahead and submit this through Onc 360, which is again, a new pharmacy, a new specialty pharmacy. They're going to try to get it done. So around this time, I then get an approval notification that, hey, it's finally been approved. At this point, I kept getting notifications from all these specialty pharmacies and from Anthem that my request to fill the prescription for Nubeqa was getting denied. So denied. At this point, I get one that, hey, it's been approved. It's been approved this time through Cost Plus, which was the original pharmacy. So I reach out to Cost Plus and they're like, yes, it has been approved. Let's go ahead and get you started. So they start going through the process, and about 30 minutes into this, I said, hey, do you guys offer this? And they said, yes, we do. We offer Nubeqa. Of course, it's on our list. So I'm like, okay, at this point, I'm just thoroughly confused. So the next day comes around and I call Cost Plus back. Remember, at this point, Houston Methodist is still trying to get me through Onco 360. CVS Specialty Pharmacy is doing something. And then Cost Plus is supposed to have me. So a day or two later, I think it was the next day, I called Cost Plus back again, and I talked to someone else, and I said, hey, how are we with the refill? Because it said it got approved. And they said, yes, we do have it approved in the system, but we can't give you this medication because we don't carry it, or it's just very rare or something. So again, I'm back at square one. But at this point, she said, hey, we're gonna forward the approval onto CVS Specialty Pharmacy. So again, going circles, we're doing triangles, all the shapes you can imagine. You know, I'm trying to get people to pull their head out of their rear. Anyway, really frustrating. And at this point, I think I might have just a week's left of medication. So I call Cost Plus. It's not Cost, sorry. I call CVS. And CVS says, yes, we see the approval in the system. Let's go ahead and get this started. Start going through all the process, get the address for, delivery settled. And then they said, oh, but I don't see that you have reached out for financial assistance. And I responded, no, because I don't qualify for financial assistance. I know, having done this enough times, that I don't qualify for financial assistance because my secondary insurance is TRICARE. And for most drug makers, if you get any type of government subsidized insurance, you do not qualify for any copay program offered through the manufacturer. So anyway, I said this, but they said, it doesn't matter. You still need to do this. Because if you don't do it, then we're going to come back and they're going to charge you 5 times the cost or something, and then nobody's going to cover it, or whatever sob story they came up with. So the person on the phone said, hey, I can transfer you to help you. Because at this point, I'm getting very upset. I'm getting very frustrated. Again, I only have a few days left of the medication. And she said, hey, I'm going to make this easy for you, but you have to do this. I'm going to go ahead and transfer you. No cost. I'm going to do this for you. So she transfers me. It rings twice, and then, I get the busy signal of death that, no, we're just going to disconnect you. She did give me the number. So I call back to the number. It's one of those where you leave a message, left a message. Nobody called me back that day. Call back the next day. I didn't get anything. I call back the third day, finally get through. I get through, and thankfully the process, once I explain it, and thankfully this part was relatively painless compared to everything else that we're going through at this point. But because also CVS said, hey, when you get this assistance program, you have to call the manufacturers themselves, which I did, and they're going to give you like a lot ID or a member ID. They're going to give you several different pieces of information that you're going to have to get, and then you're going to have to call us back with. So I'm like, all right. So I got that. And then, oh, by the way, at the time, CVS Specialty Pharmacy also said, hey, you're going to have to do this for Orgovix as well. Now that starts raising red flags to me, because I don't have a problem with Orgovix. Why am I going to try to do something different from an insurance perspective when I don't have problems? In the insurance world, if you're getting prescription refilled and it's going smoothly, if it's not broke, you don't fix it. So I was a little concerned, but they said, we can't do anything for you until you get this information for both of the medications you're on. And I said, this is CVS Specialty. I'm like, I get Orgovix from another pharmacy. I said, I'm not getting Orgovix from you. They said, I don't care. You still need to get it approved to give to us. So anyway, those were the hoops that I was jumping through. But I got both sets of information. I called CVS Specialty Pharmacy back. And then like, oh yeah, well, we could have done that for you. I just let that pass. I let it slide. I was going to address it. It was done. I got the information, so I sent it out to him. So, I think I'm just looking at my notes here, because it was I should have done this sooner, but I really didn't want to think about it. Also at this point, I'm still going through, because I'm trying as many irons in the fire as I can. So I'm also contacting Houston Methodist, because they're running into roadblocks and they're trying to get information. I'm still getting the letters that say, hey, we need your physician to revalidate. So as an aside, not on the CVS specialty pharmacy route yet, but as an aside, I'm trying to get listed as a patient with another doc because they said, we just need your doc to do it. So I'm saying, okay, Houston Methodist, just put me with one of your other oncology docs and let's just go forth and do great things. Get my prescription refilled. Well, they tried doing that, and the nurse for the doctor that we're trying, or actually for both of the doctors that I'm trying to do, they both say, hey, we're not touching this. We're not going to accept you as a patient, even though I'm being seen at Houston Methodist. But the nurse won't answer the phone. She won't do anything. So anyway, so back to CVS. CVS gets the information that that they said, hey, we could have done this for you and done it 2 days ago or whatever. And about this time, I just get so frustrated that I get the idea that I wish I would have had a long time ago, or earlier in this whole process. But I called my insurance company, and the insurance company in this case was a savior. Anthem was a savior. More specifically, the person I got on the phone, Tammy. Tammy was a lifesaver in the sense that she helped me feel like I was not alone in this process. She took some of this burden from me, and she says, you know what, you're absolutely right. Since the change in insurance companies we've had, you're not the first call I've had like this. We're getting very similar calls about certain medications for people that need this medication, and it's a cost-cutting measure that the company, in this case, Edward Jones, did, and it's just not working out for the patients. So she said, I'm going to help you, and I'm going to call these people every day. I'm going to call these pharmacies every day to try to get this fulfilled for you. Because you shouldn't, from the Houston Methodist standpoint, the pharmacists shouldn't need to go to a doc to get this refilled since it was already refilled by a doc. The other pharmacies, since they have the information, they should be able to go ahead and approve it. And so she really helped. But I was not going to, I've learned my lesson. The sharing of the burden helps, but I'm still ultimately responsible. So we keep calling. At this point, I've got about 2 days left. And so I know things are just taking forever. It's already been over a month, and I didn't know what else to do. So in comes my urologist, who I've kept the same urologist since the beginning. And they are great. And they were able to get me they get sample packs sometimes for medications, and they had a sample pack that they could get to me to try to tide me over. It's not the answer, but it's at least so I don't miss dosages. And I think I did miss one dose ultimately. But anyway, thankfully the urologist did that. And I don't like doing that. I don't like using them because that's not what that's there for, but it was my last resort. Anyway, so in the meantime, I'm getting fairly regular calls from Tammy, just updating me on her progress, and she's hitting the same walls that I am. And then same thing with Houston Methodist. I'm still staying in touch with them. I just don't know what else to do. I've got Houston Methodist going through Onco 360. I've got Tammy trying to go through CVS Specialty Pharmacy. And even the original Express Scripts. So about a week afterwards, about a week afterwards, I'd gotten the sample pack to tide me over. I get a phone call from Biologics Specialty Pharmacy, and they're like, that's my original, no, sorry, not Biologics, from Express Scripts, my original provider. And they said, hey, we've got your approval. Let's go ahead and get this ordered and get you good to go. And I'm like, okay. So I don't know what happened, but I go through the process with them. They said, okay, it's not gonna be put in until like 3 days from now. I think we were on a Friday or something. Or maybe it was a Thursday, but it was just too late. But basically it wasn't gonna go out until the next Monday, and it wasn't gonna arrive to me until the next Thursday. So I'm like, okay, go through that process, even though I'm like, this sounds weird because I know, according to the letters that I got, that my insurance company is no longer using Express Scripts. But whatever, at this point, I'm not looking at gift horses in the mouth. So then the next day, I get a phone call from Onco 360, who Houston Methodist was going through to try to get this solved. And Onco 360 is like, hey, yeah, we got this ready. Let's go ahead and get this out to you. And they're like, yeah, we can get it out to you earlier than what Express Scripts said. So again, at this point, I don't know what's going to go through, what's going to get canceled the next day. So I just approved both of them. And I end up getting the Onco 360 first. And the Express Scripts one actually never comes in. It's still showing as pending on the app that I have for them. So I think it benefited that I did try to go through both, no matter what happened. So it was just a really poor experience. It was really stressful. I didn't need it, but it is what it is. I mean, all that to go to say, I'm still in between oncologists. We did actually try to reach out a couple of times, and that's really just a broad overview. There are a lot of details that I missed, just or otherwise this would have been like an hour and a half update. I don't want it to be that. But some of the other things, we did continue to reach out to Dr. E, and she had basically said, and I think I reached out to her 3 times, and after the 3rd time, it was very apparent that Dr. E was just like, she responded after the 2nd time, and it was kind of apparent after that she really didn't want to be bothered with this. And then the 3rd time, well, she just never responded after the 3rd time. So I am looking for another genitourinary oncologist. And that's a whole other thing. I've been in discussions with MD Anderson for about a week and a half now to go ahead and start seeing an oncologist there. And I'm at the point where they're supposed to call me. Now, I've worked with MD Anderson before, and they've always been pretty quick to call back. It's been a week and I haven't heard anything. So a little nervous about that, but anyway, also because I'm coming up to the 6-month point since my last set of scans, and at this point I'm still getting 6-month scans because they haven't been clean yet. Anyway, I know I'm coming across as whining, but that's just kind of where I'm at. I'm still in that first month of the refill from Onco 360, so we'll see how that works. Coming up for the next one should be a couple of days. I should be getting a call from them. I say that because the 2 apps, or the 2 meds that I had, or Nubeca and Orgovix, I had apps for both of those that I could renew the refill when we're coming due. I did ask, and they said they were just going to call me when it was time to refill the new one. So that's really it. That's the highlight. Just know, if you've got a chronic disease, or if you're just starting out with a chronic disease, this insurance piece is big. And there's a lot of nooks and crannies. And ultimately, it's your responsibility. And the only person who's going to care about it more than anyone else is you. So just be patient, take a lot of deep breaths, do some meditations, and you'll get through it. I feel that, unfortunately for me, because I'm in the socioeconomic status that I am, which is middle class, you're in that purgatory where you make too much to qualify for subsistence, and you don't make enough to where it just doesn't care, or where it just doesn't matter for you to just pay out of pocket for the medications. So it is what it is. Other than that, last PSA score, still good. I actually had one a couple of weeks ago because I didn't know, again, this whole in between oncologists, I didn't know if I was going to be able to get a PSA test with the test that Dr. E had put in before she left. And I ended up being able to get one. So I had one that was going to expire in 90 days. So I just went ahead and got it done. So the last one a couple of weeks ago, still shows nothing. Outside of that, it's just the normal things. I'm fighting this cold, and I got these aches and pains that I think you probably get when you try to stay active and you're on hormone therapy and have no testosterone, but it is what it is. So, I will give you an update on who the new genitourinary oncologist is, and we'll go from there. But until then, I'll keep remembering, I hope you keep remembering, anything is possible.